We've talked with experts in the fields of various regions, because being a good trainer isn't just about your Pokemon being healthy, it's about them being happy too. That's why at PoryCo we work with the brightest researchers and Pokemon professors to meet that goal. For you, PoryCo, the #1 brand in trainer technologies and a proud sponsor of the Pokemon Research Facility. Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern. And today we'll be taking another deep dive into the Pokemon Research Facility and their sponsor, PoryCo. So let's hop right into it. As discussed in the last video of the series, PoryCo has been using technology scavenged from the fallout of various evil teams to better understand people as well as Pokemon. While these teams' goals may have been corrupt, their advances still hold much promise.
No, all right. I know that sounds bad.
In fact, technology like the Poryphone, essential in any aspiring trainer's back pocket, was made accessible through these technological discoveries and partnership with the Pokemon Research Facility. Speaking of which, why don't we meet the region's Pokemon professor and liaison responsible for sending you on your Pokemon journey. Whenever we run into a new Pokemon professor, we're always astounded by the research in their respective fields, whether that be Professor Oak studying relationships and bonds between Pokemons and humans, Sycamore with Mega Evolution and Change, Fennel studying Pokemon trainers and Pokemon dreams, or Rowan with Pokemon Evolution. I wanted to go somewhere a little bit different with the design of this Pokemon professor. He kind of just does this as a hobby, being that he used to be a famous movie star. He got tired of the life and the limelight and decided that he wanted to devote himself to more aspiring type pursuits, putting himself more into education rather than just being a movie star. Does that mean that he's the most well-versed in the Pokemon research that he conducts? No, in fact, he doesn't conduct Pokemon research. He was brought in by PoryCo to be the liaison and stand-in for the Pokemon League, functioning as their professor, but not quite professor-educated himself. You may have seen him in some of his previous films, such as Gone with the Wishy-Washy, Finding Mewtwo, Crow Batman Begins, The Matrix Evolution, and many others. He's a very well-versed and versatile actor himself. But how does he become a Pokemon professor? Well, when he first began pursuing this idea of moving more into this type of field, PoryCo was quick to snatch him up. He has great optics and many people know of him, so naturally, he's someone who can be trusted. He has a very positive outlook on life and a very positive outlook on being able to help Pokemon in the most genuine fashion, as well as being a little bit out there and a little bit manic sometimes. You'll notice that his lab coat isn't your traditional lab coat, more so a fashion type aesthetic fitting of a lab coat. You can't see it in this picture, but the back actually is sponsored by PoryCo, has their logo and name in huge letters. Probably other brand names as well who sponsor the Pokemon League as well as the Pokemon Research Facility. He likes to dress casual, and I wanted to fit that in the design. I thought about even having him in sweatpants for a little bit, but figured as a celebrity and kind of fashion icon, sweatpants may not work quite as well, although I have been corrected by a couple different celebrities who go for a more leisure aesthetic. He himself will show up wearing his tank top and fashion robe, coat, what have you as well, so he's not a person that you can really trust with Pokemon learning and Pokemon research, but he is the guy that you're meant to go to, and so you do. He's the one responsible for giving you your Porydex, your Poryphone, and your PoryCo brand running shoes, all part of the whole motif that this company kind of functions and runs the Pokemon League. They do as much as they can everywhere to sponsor these type of engagements, and he is the liaison, responsible for introducing you to this world and setting you out on your journey. He's often looking for what he wants to research and specialize in. He looks at other researchers and professors as great examples, but truly doesn't know where to start. Along your journey, not only will you be collecting information in your Porydex, but also talking to him about what it is that he wants to specialize in. Kind of weird meeting a Pokemon professor who functions in that way. Doesn't quite know who they are, or what they want to be, but through your journey, you'll figure it out. Hopefully, maybe, potentially. All offers are on the table still. And yeah, with so many people being so interested in the future and just what the plans of this Pokemon professor before a celebrity, what they're looking for, he's very quick to have reporters and journalists at his heels. And so I am pleased to introduce you to Professor Sago. Not many people do call him the Pokemon professor, but he is looking to change that, as despite his lack of research-based background, he takes his job very seriously. He will also be responsible for introducing you to your partner Pokemon, but more on that in a future video. Psst, over here. Hi, it's Stern coming in from Editing Land to let you know that the Ko-fi and Patreon supporters actually got to meet Professor Sago a full month ago. So if you're ever trying to figure out exactly what you get by supporting me across those platforms, here's a little taste at one specific perk. Anyway, I'll let you get back into it. Sorry for the interruption, just ignore me. When scientists first began studying the paradox phenomenon, Professor Sago jumped at the opportunity. He wanted to be the first to crack down on what this phenomenon could be, and so naturally he commissioned other scientists to do that research for him. They may not have been the brightest because they weren't snatched up by other Pokemon research teams, but they still got to work and actually made a discovery. While Magnemite appears to be human-made, this Pokemon has a lot of similarity to Magnemite. In fact, it went as far as Pokemon professors calling it a pre-evolution or a pre-version of Magnemite prior to humans actually taking hold of the Pokemon. But it didn't fully exist. It was something that had died out long ago. So utilizing the secret sauce that PoryCo had been using to create their other abominations, Professor Sago was able to bring in this secret ingredient alongside some of the DNA and stones associated with this Pokemon to create something wholly new. Instead of using electricity and magnetism to hold rocks together, this one is using a psychic energy. It's able to pull and push these stones that come from so many various levels of the Earth's core. One would assume that it is some kind of magnetism, but upon taking these rocks apart, breaking the Pokemon down to its base elements, they found out that no, it's something else, some sort of mental energy trapped within the base stone of this Pokemon. Some of the rocks used in this delicate balance are from hundreds, thousands, or millions of years ago. Some as far down as thousands of feet below the surface, and yet they all have some similarity to one another that allow them to maintain this balance. If you've been watching my channel long enough, you may know that a couple months, maybe even years back, I did a Pokemon based on balancing stones, and truthfully, this design was very heavily inspired by that. That ended up going to a project that kind of got defunct along the way, and I really wanted to get back on that design motif. So this felt like a good opportunity. It's not a paradox Pokemon. It's something else, something ancient. Something that maybe even the people of Kostawes, where the Pokemon research facility was founded, might have been aware of, might have locked away for some reason. While it may just look to us like a modern-day variation of Magnemite, it's different. Researchers studied Mentomite's ability to pull itself back together by putting it under tremendous stress and separating the stones by great miles, but it always was able to pull itself back into one piece. The shiny, I wanted it to be kind of difficult to spot. It's just a little bit duller, and it has the ability Misunderstanding. This ability means that at the beginning of a battle, for the first 1 to 3 turns, Mentomite will take on a random combination of Pokemon types over its natural Psychic Rock type, meaning that you will be hard-pressed to figure out exactly what is going to be weak or strong against this Pokemon, at least for the first couple of turns. You'll also notice that its stats are more so akin to a Magnezone instead of a Magnemite. It's for those reasons that researchers have dubbed this a success. Experiencing the apparent victory of this research, the scientists decided that they wanted to try and evolve, push this Pokemon even further. So they exposed it to Thunderstones, Firestones, Waterstones, anything that they could to try and get this Pokemon to evolve. Outside of any sort of Psychic or Rock Stone, it seemed like there was nothing they could do. It wasn't until they brought this Pokemon to its place of origin, the spot that the body stone first originated. There, the ground began to shake. The earth began to rise up against the researchers. Many fled, leaving this Pokemon scared and alone. As the various layers of earth began to rise and change, several fossils were brought up alongside it, including the skull of an Aerodactyl. The Pokemon Mentamite took this skull, as well as several other pieces of bone and stone fragment, and brought those even further into itself. Not so much using it as the new head of the Pokemon, but more an aggressive anti-lure. It wanted to take that stone, that skull, this new shape, and utilize that to protect itself against these scientists who had done so much to it. They ran in terror upon seeing this new and strange beast that had somehow turned out from the Pokemon that they themselves had created. It was left to wander, now fully free, knowing that it wouldn't be bothered again. With this new terrifying expression and these new extremities that it had built for itself using its inherent psychic ability, it was finally free, finally happy. Built by man out of long-forgotten technology, long-forgotten relics, and maybe even magic, it was now able to exist alone on the earth as it wanted to. Who knows, maybe someday it'll find a trainer who understands it, one who isn't just out to use it for its power, but to be its friend. Something that this Pokemon has never truly experienced. And so it wanders around the Kostawis region now, seeking that. Oddly enough, it seems that Professor Sago was right. He'd created something of a paradox Pokemon, a Pokemon that exists all of its own accord, from ancient technology, ancient magic, ancient stones, and now is kind of a one of its kind. It wanders, looking for something that may not exist, looking for a sense of purpose, perhaps. Is it a Pokemon? Is it a relic? What could it be? Even Magnemite itself was man-made, much as this Pokemon seems to be, but its origin comes from something that was real, something that did exist and have a life prior to this. And perhaps it still even has those memories. Perhaps it remembers what it was before it was changed and altered by these scientists. Its goals still remain unknown. But in the design, I knew that I wanted to capture something that was so vastly different from what we could anticipate. Sure, maybe you anticipated that given its psychic energy, it would pull two more of its kind together and create a new type of Magneton. Heck, maybe you thought that we were going to skip that over and make a new type of Magnezone. I wanted to create something that was surprising, that was shocking to see, and still captured some of that paradox type of energy. I mean, Sandy Shocks is my favorite paradox Pokemon. I'll be 100% honest about that. I love the thing, and I love how it utilizes kind of that magnetic iron filings to create a shape for itself. And I wanted to do something that felt the same, but different. Mentrattle. Its name a combination of mental and bone rattle, meaning shaky or unbalanced, like the feeling you get when you're at a concert standing too close to the speaker. The stones about its body now move, undulating in a wicked motion that displays power and aggression. The psychic energy held within it now erupts out as great wings like those found on terrifying dragons, and it still has that misunderstanding ability, which would make it both devastating and unruly in battle. Why? Because it doesn't want to be captured. The tragedies that brought this Pokemon into existence have scarred it, traumatized it against Pokemon trainers, and anyone who is able to capture this thing, even if it is possible, is going to have a lot on their hands. It's for that reason that the Pokemon Research Facility, after creating this devastating Pokemon, dubbed it a failure, because despite their intent, they just couldn't control it, as though it was always destined to be a wild animal. Following this apparent failure, the Pokemon Research Facility really sought to prove themselves. PoryCo was cracking down on them. 2 failures was too many. So they decided that they would go with something that they knew. Taking the DNA of Pokemon Sawk and Throh and merging them together into one singular form. They'd had such success with Simisurge doing something similar, taking Pokemon that had apparent counterparts and morphing that DNA, that they decided they would do the same again. I mean, if it worked once before, it should work this time, right? So they took that DNA and mixed it with their chemical X-type concoction, their secret sauce, their as of yet unknown hidden recipe, and decided that they would make something new. Unfortunately, upon bringing in the DNA of two Pokemon that are known to fight, they found that they didn't mix very well. Rather than cohesively sticking together and forming something brand new, the DNA almost seemed to fight against one another, almost like it didn't want to be made. Through a lot of effort, trial, tribulation, and everything in between, they were eventually able to create something. It may not be something that they sought to make or something they were altogether excited by, but it was something. They created this Pokemon and kind of hid it away, just in case of a rainy day that they needed proof that they were still worth investing in by PoryCo. And in that time, it became stronger. It fought. It taught itself to defend itself. It was locked away in the back wing of Section 7. However, upon the incident of Sporovine breaking in and kind of wreaking havoc across that whole wing, causing it to be left abandoned, this Pokemon escaped as well. It now haunts and structures itself around the greater Kostawis region, seeking those who it can fight. It's unknown why this Pokemon is so eager for battle, much more eager than others. And it didn't take long for someone to start digging into that as well. A researcher who as of yet has remained unnamed found this Pokemon and started being kind to it, feeding it, caring for it, allowing it to battle when the time was correct for that to happen, and came to understand it. This Pokemon felt like it had something to prove. It felt like it had to prove that it was greater than the sum of its parts. It was built to be a counterpart to Sock and Throw, but it felt like it was meant to be so much more. And that's what it wanted to be. It wanted to prove all of those scientists wrong. That it wasn't a failure, something to be locked away for a rainy day. It wanted to exist and deserved the right to exist. And that's what it had been doing. That's why it had been fighting. The, again, as of yet unnamed researcher eventually let the Pokemon go after teaching it its own self-worth, that it doesn't have to be a clone. It doesn't have to be a misrepresentation of the pieces that made it. It can be its own Pokemon. And with that newfound outlook, it was released, allowed to live happily within the Kostawis region as its own Pokemon, making its own destiny and fighting not to prove anything, but fighting because it wanted to, and because it enjoyed it. Until a couple months ago, when PoryCo discovered the Pokemon and had the Pokemon Research Facility recapture it. It's now stored in Wing 14, where it's being held for further study. Headlock, the Taekwondo Pokemon. While it's compromised of the DNA of both Sock and Throw, it appears to have power far greater than each. Its stats take into account the heightened stats of both Pokemon to display its power, and the ability Pure Might allows this Pokemon to land an extra free blow when using an attack meant to hit multiple times. The Shiny follows the same pattern of its counterparts, in being just a more saturated version. I've never heard anyone say that Sock or Throw were their favorite Pokemon designs. Maybe that's why no one noticed when this supposed success was once again locked away. As you all sought to uncover the mystery of what's been going on with PoryCo and the Pokemon Research Facility, you came across this research log. A couple of you actually stumbled across it earlier this week, written by Gym Leader Ike. He's the Ice-type gym leader of the town located in Mount Shastor. It's a tiny little town kind of hidden and locked away behind ice and snow, and having a gym leader who's known for hiking, excavating, and rescuing people who get lost on those trails is a great thing to have. I can cover this hidden tablet, one that I'll let you continue to try and find if you haven't already. And while it is mysterious, it's not anything unknown or uncommon to this type of explorer. Ike knows almost every inch of Mount Shastor, the mountain range that borders all of the Kostawis region. And while researching and looking into things, he's discovered some new and unknown information. Things that have continually been hidden away by someone. A prophecy? A clue? A hint? an odd stone tablet with weird writing in some kind of ancient cipher. He's not the type of person to be able to uncover what the true meaning of this tablet is, or what it may lead to, and is more accustomed to just kind of giving these documents over to the Pokemon research facility whenever he comes across them. It's not entirely uncommon for him to find something that's from the old ways of Kostawis, so it's kind of just second nature at this point. As a Pokemon gym leader, his prime Pokemon is Tundruff, one that I've actually drawn before on my Instagram way back, and is now coming back into relevance. So go and check that out if you can. A lot of the Pokemon designs that I've done in years past are kind of resurfacing with this new light, something that I'm really excited for because some of those designs I really enjoyed. And the fact that I get to stumble back into that for this mystery of the Kostawis region, a region I've been working on for what now, probably 3-4 years at the very least, is now happening. It's now coming to light. The mysteries associated with this place, you guys have worked tirelessly to try and figure out what's going on. And I'm not going to say that you're right on absolutely everything, but you guys are on this track that's going to lead to some further understanding, some stuff that I think is going to be very interesting and hopefully feels worth it. Every Monday, the research logs in the hidden section of my site get updated. Finding the password to that is going to be as easy as watching last Monday's video, and I actually drop hints to what's been going on every video. I drop 3 videos a week, and each video has some sort of hint or clue as to what this mystery truly is. So keep track. Some clues are actually even hidden in videos that I did weeks or months ago. I'm not saying you have to go and watch every video on my channel, it may help, but keep track of what's being said, where it's being said, and how it's being said. I try not to drop any hints specifically to the Discord, as I know some people just aren't that type of person, so rest assured, just because you're not in the Discord doesn't mean that you're going to miss out on this mystery. You can fully take part without being incorporated into anything that requires a sign up. And I wanted to do that because I know for me, I love having all my ducks in a row, especially when it comes to Discord and different channels and things of that nature. So I didn't want anyone feeling like they were stuck behind some kind of wall. This isn't a pay-to-win game. This is something that's fun and exciting, and I'm so interested in what y'all's theories are on what PoryCo is up to. Like I said, there are updates on the portion of my site that a lot of you are probably already aware of every Monday, and then hints dropping in every video that I release. They're not going to change the outcome of the video. A lot of you probably didn't even notice anything in the Five Nights at Freddy's video last week or the astrology video, but for those of you who are paying close attention at home and are watching to figure out where these clues are, some stuff may jump out at you. But that's enough on that front. Ike is one of my favorite trainers. He is one of the first gym leaders that I ever designed for this region, and so I was really excited to be able to bring him back. He's very closely tied in with a couple other gym leaders as well, kind of a family business, if you will, and you'll get to meet those as we continue on through this series. Ike is not so much a researcher, very much an outdoorsy guy, and that's what he is. Very simple guy, but every now and then he does come across something that is unexplained. He's very much the type of person that when he talks, you want to listen. And the people that he's been in talks with are very likely to change your entire understanding of this ARG. And it is an ARG. We've been having a ton of fun. I can't explain that enough. I can't say that enough. I love making this. I hope you guys love taking part in it, and as well as seeing the designs. So yeah, that's Ike. Simple, straightforward, cut to the point. I think Ike would really enjoy that description. Our community over at Discord has been hard at work trying to crack the egg that is the PoryCo mystery, and have been scouring the internet for where clues may lie. Each week, access to more information about PoryCo and the PRF seems to be leaking from somewhere. So grab the invite link down below and join in on that team. But with all that out of the way, it looks like you know where to find me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.